Hello, hello, welcome everybody. I'm Jev, yes, Triple V. The accent, by the way, is purely Kiwi. I read old stories for children, so we keep this a family-friendly channel by having bad word blockers, banning bots, and preventing spam. So that means new followers need to wait a few minutes before they can join in the chat. Since these stories are so old, they're now in the public domain, which means they are free to read for anyone and by anyone, the way many Christmas songs are. The digital versions I read are from Project Gutenberg, and you'll find the link for that below. The physical ones are just old books my family has lying around. Sometimes I'll even show them to you. These, by the way, are live reads. Think of them as bedtime stories rather than actual audiobooks. You get the benefits of my mistakes, distractions, explanations, and terrible attempts at accents, along with plenty of chat and interruptions as we find out about things in the story. If you need to do work or chores, then that's fine. Just come and lurk. Please adjust your volume to suit. There are captions available if you have to be quiet or you have hearing challenges, but be warned, sometimes the captions aren't always that accurate. I am a member of the Codex, an awesome group of reading streamers on Twitch. People from many walks of life who share their love of reading, and you'll find links to the Codex reading team and our Discord server below. A special feature of the Codex Discord is the security channel for those of you who stream or moderate. You'll find lots of practical, useful information to help keep your stream and your community safe. So, hang around and come discover adventure with me. You never know what we'll find. I am actually here. I just had to go and grab something from downstairs. Didn't expect it to finish quite so soon. I hope it wasn't 5 minutes ago. It was meant to run for 15 minutes. I'm catching my breath, and in the meantime, I'm also plugging in my chat monitor so I can see when you guys are saying things. Excellent. Anyone notice any differences on the screen? I'll let you have a think about that. Answers on the back of a postcard too. Not quite. That used to be a common thing on radio shows. If the host would ask a question and they wanted some submissions, and so they would say answers on the back of a postcard too, because postal rates for postcards used to be a lot cheaper than postal rates for letters. It's like aerograms. Nobody has aerograms anymore because nobody knows what they are. They were also cheaper because it was to do with the weight. An aerogram was one sheet of ultralight paper that was used, that you folded it together and then gummed it closed. It had a pre-gummed strips on it so that the actual page that you had written on became its own envelope. It was quite cool. But they had a cheaper postal rate for posting overseas than what your standard stuff did, which was quite cool. Oh, okay, thank you very much. Discord's telling me it had updates. Not what I wanted to know right now. I'm doing something over here. What am I doing? I can't see anything there that I needed to do. Make sure they're all muted. Yeah, I was actually setting some stuff up beforehand, so that's why it's a little bit more scatty. Well, it's just the same as normal, isn't it, really? So first of all, before we go anywhere else, you've already had the intro video. I am now going to run some tips for anyone who hasn't been here before, and it's a lovely reminder for those of you who have, what you need to do, how you need to be ready. And the stupid thing just shut itself down. Why? It's Samsung. Vid. Here you go. Take notes. Vids. Hi, Shu. Lovely to have you here.
Oh, good day. We've stumbled across the raccoons and his stream viewing habitat. Let's watch as he learns how to better enjoy the stream and make the most of his viewing experience. Let's see. According to the video, there are 6 or 7. Number 1 would appear to be hydrate. We have our hydration right here. It's important to stay hydrated. It's good mentally and physically, and it's good for your vocal cords, other parts of your body, your mind. And that brings us to number 2. When the streamer does drink, you drink as well. Oh, what's this now? Oh, drinking. Drink. Did you drink now? Oh, you can indicate so by putting the water bottle emoji or thumbs up in chat. Next one, snacks. Raccoons has snacks. There appears to be trail mix and what's that? Carrot cake. Ooh, that looks yummy. Oh, I guess we can't have any. Number 4. Is to get comfy. Well, Raccoons has his lucky blanket right here, and Raccoons also has a teddy. Who can say no to that? Don't you have a teddy? Maybe a different kind of plushie. Being comfy is good for the mind. Number 5, something to write with or write on, because you never know when you might need to look something up later. We have 2 sizes of pads right over there, 2 pens in case one has really bad ink. Good job, Raccoons. Oh, on second thought, never mind. that brings us to our final point, which is participate in chat. You can do things like type in chat, chat with other people in chat, use commands, play Jev Bingo. Raccoons has his own Jev Bingo card right here. You can spend pages and do things like forcing Jev to wear silly things on her head like headbands, crowns, unicorn horns, and perhaps one day even something like the one that's about to appear, if I remember correctly, unless it hasn't. Did it already happen? Oh, and you can make clips, you can submit quotes. Just try to enjoy the stream. There's another headband. There we go. So that should do it. Enjoy the stream, and I'm going to help myself to some of that trail mix. Or not. Ah!
Sorry, I was just reading something on my screen, scratching the side of my face because I'm itchy. I'm always itchy. And just realised that had finished right at the same time. You guys are having a lot of fun. That's good to see. Goriki says that Shu is a great gleaming butterfly. That's lovely. She had also said, when I had said, I hope you count, I'm reading these things out for everybody who is actually not able to see chat, or if you're over on YouTube watching this and wondering what's going on, because I don't know if the rest of you guys know, I have been reposting them on YouTube again. I am not editing them. All I do is cross-post them there. I edit very slightly what the title is for over there and put that it's part 1, part 2, part 3, whatever, and put them into a playlist. And then if I've got time in the middle of the night and it's not taking away from anything else, I will actually put timestamps so people can skip that whole long bird song countdown timer. Hence me, I already did read them out. I'm going to try not to point to the chat that's on the side there, which they don't see, and just point to the one that's on screen, which they also can't see properly. But anyone over on YouTube, please come and join us on Twitch when I'm live. It's a lot more fun. Anyway, and if you want it to sound like more fun than it does when it's just playing normally on YouTube, put it up to 1.5 times speed. Honestly, it's a lot more fun. It just condenses the timeline a lot. So what was going on in chat that I was being amused by is I hope you're all counting the numbers on your fingers, because that last tips video we had doesn't have the numbers to say what tip we're up to, and also the animated GIF, and it also doesn't have any captions on it. And I was in the middle of doing something else, of course, and so I was reminding everybody that they better be keeping track of the numbers, and Goriki says I can't. They're holding my hydration snacks and note stuff. Of course they are. So I said toes then. Shu offered her fingers. You can count on my fingers. An 8-ball. Goriki asked the 8-ball, are those edible fingers? And Goriki and the 8-ball said, for sure. And so Shu's got the Jack Sparrow running away emote. Oh, thank you, Shu, for the follow on YouTube. That's lovely. I was actually going to put in chat if anyone needed it. I think in my... For those on Twitch, I think in my panels below I've got a link to my YouTube channel, but also I'm just putting it into chat there for you as well. Yes, it would be good if I could move this rose bush a little bit over here. Actually, I can. Just a moment. Once I move the stream channel sign and the kiwi, and the more pork, Ruru, that's called Ruruka is the name, but Ruru is the type of bird it is in Māori, and the gift box, the letter box, which tells us when gifts come in, it's slacking. I fear it's sadly slacking. It's about to get fired because it didn't tell us all about the ones that we just got.
namely these things behind us. And yes, the others will come into view at some stage. We haven't got there. That's a bit better for being able to see chat, isn't it? I've got a little shelf behind me and I sit them on it. And unfortunately, because of the way the saturation is for my camera at the moment, yeah, they're looking a little bit dull, but that's okay. By the way, save your pages. The cat camera is not working at the moment, probably because it was another update. I had that one time. Thankfully for me, it's not happened very often. Goriki has it every time he has an update on his computer, but I had it that my Bluetooth dongle didn't work after one of the previous updates fairly recently. And I thought that maybe it had broken. You know, it was old. It's been plugged in for a long time. So I just pulled it out and let it just sit without. And then the other day I decided I was going to give it a try and it worked. So I think it's probably just one of those things. And it'll come right eventually if I figure out what I need to look at. Unlike audio devices such as Bluetooth dongles when they're being used for headphones, I can't go into the sound settings to actually tell it that, yes, this is the priority one, please use it, because it's for a camera. They don't have those sort of settings. And yes, we are totally not sponsored by V today. So we are going to shame them. Oh yeah, this is one of the things I did. I thought, much as I like the purple, on this bottle it doesn't stand out enough. So since it's for the word shame, the shame bottle shall have a very noticeable label. So one of the things I was doing. This is the other change that I was hoping that you would have noticed. Okay, for this book, that's what we're doing. Right. Now, brains. Somewhere. Yes, it worked. Oh, it's not meant to have the keyword shame in front of it. It's meant to be behind it. I know why. I know exactly why. It should work properly now. It's because I was trying to locate it on the page properly, so it was roughly centered where this is, and I needed to change the sequence. Yes, well done, Shu. Shu created that illustration for us. I think it's fantastic. I love it. That is the disappointment donkey. Disappointed donkey is very disappointed. Yes. I haven't got it doing anything else fancy at the moment. That was all being done while I was running the intro. Thank you so much, Shu. And I don't think I've got a credit panel down in my Twitch about page yet, but I do want to put one there, so your name will definitely be top of the list. The other thing that'll be top of the list is free pick, because I use a lot of stuff from there. I use ones that are definitely not labeled as AI created. If it's not in the ones that are not AI created, then I don't use them, even if I like them. Just because for graphics, I want to encourage people to still be doing artwork. So therefore, if free pick will actually have that as an option that you can choose whether they're ones that are human created or AI created, I'm going to choose the human created ones to encourage them. Somewhere I need to actually also set up a list of the different things, different materials, different items I have used, who they are, not which ones are created by who, but a list of the names of the different creators I use. There are certain ones I tend to prefer because they have certain graphic styles I use. So often it will be the little wee logos that are used on the pages icons. That's where I usually get those. Usually have too many letters or syllables. Words do, yeah, I know. And too many of them, too many words. It's really lovely to have your artwork there. I love your drawing that you did, which I use on my intro screen, and now it gets 15 minutes of fame each time I stream because I found out how to change the settings for my timer. I've tried so many times and I keep getting them wrong. I forgot that it was to do with the Lua script. That's where the setting is. because you can change them down below in the panel sources, but also the actual final arbiter of how long it runs for is in your scripts. And if you're using OBS, it's up in the menu system, and you go to Tools, and then you go to Scripts, and then in there is the section that you're looking for. So it's a Lua script, Lua. Makes me sound very technical, doesn't it? I know what it's called. But at least I finally figured out where it was that I had to change it. And I've actually still got the old one in case I need it, but I wanted to run the intro section for longer. One, it gives people time to get here, but the second is that it means that the actual ads that run at the very beginning have enough time after them for me to be able to run the intro video and then still have the timer running for a while, but not go intro video 2 seconds straight into stream and me running a tips video. It's a little bit too tight and jumbled that way. So we're getting there. But setting this up with Disappointed Donkey meant that I had to go and remember how to set up in StreamerBot, how to set up a command, because I haven't done one for a little while. And the reason I set it up in StreamerBot is because then it has the graphics coming up on screen and I can get it to come on and off, things like that. There's probably some other extra thing that I can add to it which will make it fade in and then disappear suddenly or something like that. I'm pretty sure there's an easing command to go with it too, but for a 5-minute job that was pretty good. Oh, and Shu, do you have access to being able to remove backgrounds? Because it would be really cool to actually do it where it comes up and the background disappears and then the background comes back, and that's the flash effect. That would be quite cool. Time for the Disc of Winnowing. So what have we got? Thank you for that, Redeemed, too, by the way. We have the Disc of Winnowing has chosen for us. Yes, transparent, that's the one. Cat Floral. Now, just for a change, we're going to go for the other Cat Floral headband since we had one last time. So we'll go for the other one this time. Just means I've got to look underneath something. See, this one, as opposed to, unless you prefer it. Actually, Shu, you get a choice. Which one would you prefer? The one with lots of little flowers on it, or the one with some bigger flowers and little flowers? You get to choose. The one on my left or the one on my right? One on your left or the one on your right? The one with the bigger flowers. Okay, I thought you probably would. It looks more purple. It's got less yellow in it, that's why. If I see any more with this sort of thing, I might see that are really cheap. I might get them because they're actually a thin metal headband and it's a frame for the ears. So I'd be able to, if it's super cheap and I'm not worried about what they actually look like, I can strip all the decorations off it and actually use that as a frame for doing some other things that have ears. And I've only just thought of it, and I have no idea why I only just thought of it. Right, egg timer. We're looking for the egg timer. We've got one here. Egg timer. Okay, if we minimize that bit, it'll be easier to find. And I'm not going to make any comments about the fact... No, I'm already commenting. I don't need to. Right, this can move down here now. Why did I move that up earlier on? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Egg timer is over here. Let's start the... come on. Why is it that my pop-up toolbar doesn't pop up on one screen sometimes? Can anyone tell me that? Apart from saying Windows. I already know that. Thank you very much. Smart Alec. Right. I think we're there. I'm going to read that comment out. This comment out. While I love having you here lurking to help us weed out any bots or bad players, please interact a bit before hiding in the background. Bonus tip: if you make sure your personal Twitch profile isn't blank or too scammy, you'll be less likely to be tagged as a bot. So, just to elaborate ever so slightly for anyone who's watching, wherever because I do know that people do watch the VODs as well. On Twitch, there are a lot of bots that go around being disruptive, and they have lots of different purposes. People say, oh, but the ones that just lurk, they're okay. They're not doing any damage because they're not posting scammy links. Well, they're actually not okay, because if they're not doing anything obvious, you have to start wondering what they're actually there for. They wouldn't be there if there was no purpose. There's no such thing as a free lunch, folks. So they are most likely sitting in your channel to steal people's information. In your space, streamer, they are sitting in your living room stealing your guests' data. Get rid of the bots. So one of the things that people like me, Goriki, and various Alchemy Mutations, another one too, I'm only naming them because of my memory. One of the things that people like us do is we will see who is sitting in our channel not chatting. We will have a look at their profile on Twitch, because you can just click on their name and it will take you to their profile. And if it looks like it's got too many Bitcoin advertisements and asks for money in too many different ways, because there's a lot of them do that, or they promote browsers that are very strongly promoting Bitcoin. Cryptocurrency, those are the words I was looking for. Or anything, if they have modified their profile. If they haven't modified their profile, and they've just got a string of numbers or variations of spaces in their name, we will tag them, because as streamers and moderators, we can do so. We can leave notes for each other that say, let's keep an eye on this one. There might be something a bit fishy going on with them. And those of us who have lots of social media accounts, if we've got time and we think of it, we will actually check out their profile. If they have in their profile any social media links, we will look those up and see if it looks like it matches what they do say about themselves, if they say anything. If it looks like it's just somebody who creates art purely for the sake of selling it, and it looks exactly the same as all other streamer art, which means they don't actually make it themselves, they're actually just ripping someone else's work off and then faking it so that they can make money off those who have no idea. I'm not talking about real artists. Real artists, when they promote themselves, talk about what they do or the frustrations they have or whatever. They have conversations with real people. The ones who are the scam artists are artists who are scamming artists, are the ones who will just post lots and lots and lots of the same style of thing and repost things like, oh, yay, this is wonderful, thank you so much, for creating this for me. And there's a whole world of accounts that verify each other by sharing each other's posts. So, yeah, if you don't say anything, ever, if you haven't modified your Twitch profile, don't be surprised if at some stage when you go to somebody's channel, you can't actually go to someone's channel because they may have banned you because they think you're a bot. All you have to do is show that you're human. That's all it is. Whether it is interacting with the streamer and the other chatters, not just coming in and talk about you, but actually interacting in such a way that shows you read what they're saying or heard what the streamer is saying, and you are responding to that as a human being. I mean, your avatar might be a robot. It might be that you like to cosplay a robot or one of your alters is a robot. That's fine, but display your humanity. There, that's what we're after. So the Shoe says, I haven't had an online gallery in a decade. I'm not sure what's cool anymore. Don't do what's cool. Whatever it is, don't try and be one of the cool kids. It's not worth it. It's the ones who come across as the cool kids who usually end up getting banned on a lot of my social media accounts. I get follows and likes. I used to say, it still says it on one of my accounts. It says that if you like, that's okay. But if you try to interact with me and all you're doing is selling stuff, I will definitely ban you. These days, if I get some interactions, I will let the person sit there, but most of the time I will actually block them on the social media sites because they each look at each other's who they're following and who they've interacted with to gain more accounts that they can access to sell their services to. That's how they make it. I mean, which sites are cool? Yeah, I know what you mean. There are so many flooded with AI garbage now. Yeah, absolutely. I have heard a lot of the tech people saying that they are setting up their own websites to show off their own work instead of hosting it elsewhere, just because of those things. Even if it's an ad-supported free website, but they are actually creating their own gallery setup just so that they don't have problems with that. There was something I was going to click or not click. What was it? Yeah, there's so much AI garbage. If someone is specifically trying to create something for a specific purpose, that where they're not trying to replace a proper artist, it's just like, I need something that is in the shape of this with this word in it. I don't actually have too much of a problem with that. But it's where, I mean, Adobe's now advertising almost every time I watch a YouTube video, one of the ads I get is an Adobe one where, and then I told it that I wanted this, and it shows you a picture of whatever the texture background it is, like silk, rippled silk. But I wanted it green, and so the image changes to green rippled silk. And then it needed some plants, and then you automatically get this plant in there, and then you get it to, and there's all these sort of things that happen, and supposedly they are telling Adobe that this is what I want done, and Adobe is AI generating it and putting it all together. And then the person is boasting about how now they're making all these sales on their website because of the art that Adobe is manufacturing without using people's thinking. And what a lot of people who don't have art skills don't understand is the reason it is able to do that is because they have scraped other people's data. Might be different to the data when you're sitting here listening to people, watching games, whatever, but it is scraping real artists' work to see how something is created so it can synthesize it. And I know authors who are no longer publishing books because their books have been proven to have been scraped because there are certain phrases that they use and nobody else that's around that writes that style of book, that genre of book. They use it, and those are turning up in some of the AI generated books. And the AI accounts are making lots of money, and the people running the AI accounts are reporting the real authors' books as being rip-offs of the AI's work. And Amazon refuses to pay the author and claims back payments that they made to the author, putting the author out of business. And Amazon doesn't mind supporting the AI because the AI is actually, in part, their own. So it means they're not having to pay out to authors. Yeah, I do get wound up about it. They are devaluing human beings, definitely. That's good, Shu. Yeah, I can do a free website gallery because I'm not selling. Excellent. That's good. It's a great way to actually just have people being able to see your stuff as long as you don't mind it being out there. There are things like putting a transparent layer over it or a confusion layer over it so that things that are doing effectively a screen cap to import for scraping don't have access to it, or it's buried in layers of coding and stuff like that. There are ways of doing it, but I don't have those skills. Anyway, so yeah, I'm not mad keen on a lot of the stuff. There is some use of AI which I do actually appreciate, like being able to reword a phrase when I'm in a no-brain day. I'm not going to ask AI to write a book for me. I want a book on this subject with these many main characters, these many female, these many male, these many non-binary. There has to be a cute, cuddly animal. You can pick which one it is, and somebody has this colour hair, and they are a good guy, not a bad guy. They are going off in this direction in a story, and people input this stuff, and then the stuff tunes out a story. But it just doesn't read quite right. It's like when you're in a dream where it's on the borderline to being almost a nightmare, but it hasn't quite got there, and you're dreaming it, and you're thinking something's wrong, but I haven't figured out what it is that's wrong, and you're waiting for the shoe to drop. It's kind of like that when you're reading AI stories. It's just like weird. Oh dear, I've got somebody. Yes, I have. I am just going to mute my phone. I'm making sure I've muted it and answer this call. And yes, I quite successfully muted it that time. Just in the phase of actually having to take phone calls at the moment from elderly parents because one of them is a bit concerned about the other. No actual things going on, but just for their mental health state, it's probably a good idea to answer the call and deal with the worry. I do keep it short, so that's good. Anyway, so other news. I'm just trying to put my phone down so that I can see it if I need it, but I don't have to do anything else with it. Other news. Oh, you haven't seen it. Okay, look up what's it called? A graphics card called a 710. It's well before the 1080 series, before the 1060 series, all those sort of ones, a 710. It's a little thing. It's mainly card, not fan casings. It has one fan on it, but the fan is about this big. Okay, if you look one of those up, it is about 10 years old. I did pick up the hand-me-down computer that is going to hopefully keep me going for a bit longer while this one continues its slow descent into a coma, I think. I'm not quite sure what. It is not impressive. Whatever it is, it's not impressive. It's got this graphics card in it, and the person who has passed it on to me said, "Oh yeah, it's a great computer. It's really powerful. All this sort of stuff." I think what they meant was it had a big case. People who don't know computers. I do appreciate it. I did have to pay a little bit because the service technician was doing work after he'd done the putting the person's files and everything onto their new computer. But to the person it was for, at the time, it was a really big, powerful computer, and the one that they've replaced it as too. I happen to know from what the technician was saying about would I like them to build me a computer, that they build middle-of-the-road home use and single-person office style computers. Not really the sort of thing I'm after. I did explain to them when I was picking this one up that this is just going to give me a little bit more time so that the prices stabilise in New Zealand and we get stock back in. Because, yeah, at the moment, thank you very much, AI, it's very, very hard to get graphics cards at prices that don't require you to get a triple mortgage on your house. and other components. So yeah, we'll get there. So hopefully this will help me to just limp along for a little bit longer. But I was talking with the service technician, and he was telling me all about the games he likes to play and stuff like that, and how his mates all thought when he got the 50/90 card, because he was able to get one before they went out of stock in New Zealand, when he got the 50/90 card and they saw what he was playing on it, they were all upset with him, because they want to play the really big flash, super fast moving, lots of lights and darks and intense action type games. And he does play a little bit of that, but he usually plays it where it's a few generations older, and so it doesn't have the same level of intensity. In fact, he said at one stage, his previous card, he was running it at 720 instead of 1080, and nobody noticed because of the style of game that he plays. Not quite as cozy as what I play, but he was obviously so relieved to have somebody who knew a little bit about computers to chat to, because he chatted to me for about 10 minutes. And if you haven't played this before, this is actually really good, and it's surprising for a sequel, considering it's come 10 years after the original game, and the original game everybody assumed had died. There was nothing about it, and yet this whole community has grown up around it again. They've rediscovered it, and now there's a new game as the second one in the series sort of thing. And he was all excited about it, because obviously he usually deals with the office workers, with the small 1 and 2 person offices and things like that, and people who say, it's not working. And you're sort of like, did you turn it on? This is old tech now. Did you turn it on? Yeah, I pushed the button. And if they're talking face to face, and they'll point to their computer on the setup, and they say, which button did you push? And they would have turned on the monitor power button, thinking that was the power button for the whole computer. No, that's just for the little bit that you see. Thank you, dearie, sort of thing. And so I think there's a lot of that sort of tech work that he ends up having to do, which must drive him nuts. Anyway, so I've got this. I'll be able to possibly limp along for a bit longer, but I need to seriously look at if I can take my graphics card out of my case and put it into that, because my graphics card is seriously better. That's a 7 series, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so it's 3 generations after the one that's in that case. He says the motherboard and the processor will handle it. It didn't have anything more substantial put in because it wasn't needed at the time. But the power supply unit might need upgrading. So I have replaced a power supply unit before. One died on me, and it was like, oh yeah. I looked at what was needed, got it, plugged the things in. As long as you don't force a plug in, you're usually okay with power supply units. So that's the latest news. I haven't got it working yet because I have to move things over to the other one. And the back of the card, it's got a DVI output. It's got the square chunky one with the square holes in it. Well, rectangular chunky one that's lots of squares. It's got the one that's the trapezoidal one with 3 rows of 5 sockets on it, and it's got 1 HDMI on it. But it does have about 5 USB, not C, the USB ports that have the blue tongue in them, which is not the original one and not the second one after that, but the one with the blue tongue is a bit faster. So that's good. Doesn't have C, but that's okay. We can cope. This is on the back of it, not on the graphics card. So I will have to find adapter cables if I'm going to use it the way it is, or I'm going to have to get a power supply unit to put into it, because my current power supply unit is not quite up to it. So we'll get there. We'll get there. It's just one of those things. Oh, thank you so much, Shu. Oh, she's working on it. That disappeared. She's realised something and then she's going to put it back. Anyway, so yeah. Well, let's read a book. That was a lot longer than it was intended to be. That was going to be short, but it was ended up long. I don't know why. So yeah, don't let the bots come in. Do not invite them. Well, you can invite the ones you're going to use, don't invite any of the other ones, okay? So toolbots like StreamerBot, Stream Elements, Coffee, Throne, those sort of things, yeah, because you have to authorize them. Those are the only bots that should be in your account, the ones that you authorize, not the ones I named, but that style of one where you authorize it to be using your account if you're a streamer. And yeah, if you're a viewer, go and modify your profile picture. Don't be an egg. That's old Twitter days. Because old Twitter accounts in the early days, if you didn't modify your account when you first joined, your profile picture was an egg. So don't be an egg. Modify your profile picture, modify the background, and then there's a second background that can also be loaded. It's referred to as being the video page, I think. It's the one that shows when you are offline. Modify the little color bar that goes down the side of the page, because if anyone hovers over any of your sections, if anyone hovers over your profile when there's a search made, it will show a little L shape of that color you have chosen around it, like it's popped up and that's a shadow under it. It's really cool. It still has a white line, but I can't see it in Photoshop. It only shows up on Discord. Oh, okay. One of the things, this is just a graphics discussion now for anyone who wants to know, but me kludging things. I don't use Photoshop. I use Photopea, which is an online website, and it's ad driven, but it kind of works. When I'm trying to find stuff that I need to deal with, I will put another layer in, and I'll put an extremely contrasting color. So if I'm isolating a book like this one here and then putting an outline around it, because the outline shows up around everything. I used to do it with a glow, now I do it with a stroke. It'll go around everything. So sometimes it'll have little blobs which have white marks around them. And I didn't know they were there because they were so small. So what I do is, for those, I will put another layer, and I'll put that bright fluorescent green. I'll fill that layer with it, and then I'll drag that layer underneath and put so you've got that going on, and then it will actually, it almost works like a highlight. It shows you where those other aberrations are. But the other option is to use a contrasting color as a glow. Not the same color as the bit that's not quite showing in Photoshop, but is showing in Discord. It's usually to do with the fact that the background you're looking at some things with are too similar in color to the bit that you're trying to remove. Speaking from experience. Not saying that is what you're dealing with, but just sometimes that's what happens. Anyway, egg timer can go away. We're going to read a book, and I've talked too long. Of course I have. So yeah, if you're over on YouTube, this is the sort of thing we do. And I try and read out the comments that people are making in chat so that you guys can actually feel like you're part of the conversation instead of like, huh, what? When all I do is answer someone's comment. Or I'm reading comments in my head and laughing at them out loud, and you're wondering, huh, what is up? Anyway, apart from the sky. Let's carry on with reading. We are reading another story from, and I don't know which one, there are no chapter numbers, from the Blue Fairy book, written by Andrew Lang and first published in 1889. He was a British sort of author. He's listed as the author. In actual fact, he compiled fairy tales. He did not go around collecting oral fairy tales. He actually compiled ones that were pre-written and published, often in other languages, translated them or had them translated, and then rewrote them into slightly more child-friendly English. Not to say that he avoided blood and guts and nasty things, but just if it sounded too adult, political and things like that, I think he made less of that side of things and more of what was going on in the interesting side of the story. But he did not do that alone. He did that with his wife, Nora. I think her name was Nora. Except that at the time that this was published, women didn't get that sort of credit when he first started publishing. And so therefore her name was not put onto them, although she was very primary in the extra editing that went into it. So they would both work on stories, and he would edit stuff as he was going along, and then she would do the serious edits before it went for publication, and they ran it as part of a publishing business. He did the first books that established the Rainbow Fairy series. The blue one is only the very first one. There's a heap of them. And she wrote some of the later ones where it was totally her work that she was doing them. Interesting team. But they did pick up on stories that we are otherwise unfamiliar with, ones that the Grimms didn't necessarily do, or ones that the normal English language versions that we know have some differences, because he and she were working from their original other languages, and so they have used the early versions of those stories to use the endings or developments that happen in them that we don't necessarily get in some of the English versions. And yet they were doing them and producing them so they could be read out for children. There you go. Interesting couple, actually. So the Langs, but generally credited as being Andrew Lang as the author, but we know better than that. So this one is Little Red Riding Hood. Here we go. Once upon a time there lived in a certain village a little country girl. The prettiest creature was ever seen. Her mother was excessively fond of her, and her grandmother doted on her still more. This good woman had made for her a little red riding hood. It's a hood that you wear when you are riding. There you go. Which became the girl so extremely well that everybody called her Little Red Riding Hood, and it's hyphenated in the story. Riding Hood. One day her mother, having made some custards, said that would be custard in a bowl and then it's set. Made some custards, it'd be several bowls of it, or jars, that sort of thing. Said to her, "Go, my dear, and see how thy grandmamma does, for I hear she has been very ill. Carry her a custard and this little pot of butter." Little Red Riding Hood set out immediately to go to her grandmother, who lived in another village. So Mum probably got married and moved to her husband's village. That's the way it was done. As she was going through the wood, she met with Gaffer Wolf. Have you ever had him named before, apart from Disney? Have you ever had the wolf in Little Red Riding Hood having a name? I haven't. This is new to me. Anyway, interesting. Gaffer Wolf, who had a very great mind to eat her up, but he dared not because of some faggot makers hard by in the forest. Stop your sniggering. Faggot makers are people who make up bundles of sticks for firewood, and those bundles are called faggots. That's where the word comes from. I have no idea why it has the British rude meaning that it now has. Implied rude meaning. Derogatory meaning, that's the one I mean. Right. He asked her whither she was going. The poor child, who did not know that it was dangerous to stay and hear a wolf talk. All the adults know it's dangerous to listen to a wolf talking, apparently, so it must have been a thing. How odd. It's interesting the little illustrations we have that come up in stories, just little insights into life at the time. Steam's now trying to tell me that the stuff on sale probably is part of Next Fest, by the way. I'm going to carry on reading. It's creepy. Animals shouldn't stop for a chit-chat. Although Shu has written for a shit-chat. They shouldn't stop for a shit-chat. Definitely not. You don't want to go chatting with those ones. Oh, that's hilarious. I'm just going to see something. Oh my goodness. The captions actually caught me saying it. 8 Ball's safe. The 8 Ball says, maybe. Kapow! And what? This is Kiwi English. It's listening to me and saying it will save the apostles. I did not say anything about apostles. 8 Ball says, and kapow. Okay, let's just ignore it. Pretend. Go home captions your drink. If you're on YouTube watching this, turn on their captions and make the background of them opaque, not transparent. It will probably caption better than this, even though it's Google doing the same job. They are so strange. Left hand does not know what the right hand's doing. It's not even that. This is 2 fingers next to each other on the same hand. Actually, no, it's not even that. It's two sections of the same finger. We're talking Google Translate. And it can't make up its mind to do it properly. Anyone who listens to me from overseas says I've got a Kiwi accent. Google thinks I speak double Dutch or something, but not English with a Kiwi accent. I don't think I have a Kiwi accent. I have one of the variations of it. There are a few of them. They're a lot more subtle than a lot of the ones in England or the States. Australia, theirs probably has subtleties too, but most people think they've got 3 accents. And if you're ever wondering, the people over in the far west coast, southern part of it, like around Perth and places like that, their accent is much more like the New Zealand one than the ones on the east coast, which is a lot closer to us. Anyway, let's ignore that. So Gaffer Wolf is talking, and she has not been warned not to talk to talking animals. The poor child, who did not know that it was dangerous to stay and hear a wolf talk, said to him, "I'm going to see my grandmama and carry her a custard and a little pot of butter from my mama." And I'm talking with that sort of a voice because it keeps talking about mama, which makes her sound very young. "Does she live far off?" said the wolf. "Oh, aye," answered Little Red Riding Hood. "It is beyond that mill you see there, at the first house in the village." First house, that means there's no one keeping an eye on her place. She's only got someone on one side of her. She's not surrounded by other houses. "Well," said the wolf, "I'll go and see her too. I'll go this way, you go that, and we shall see who will get there soonest." Now, she has pointed out where it is. So it's not like she's at the beginning of the woods and he's going to take what is a shortcut and she's going to go the long way. She pointed to the mill and said it's beyond the mill. That's not far away in terms of line of sight. The wolf began to run as fast as he could, taking the nearest way, and the little girl went by the furthest about, diverting herself and gathering nuts, running after butterflies and making nosegays of such little flowers as she met with, a nosegay being a little posy of flowers to make the nose happy. There you go. The wolf was not long before he got to the old woman's house. He knocked at the door. Tap, tap. "Who's there?" "Your grandchild, Little Red Riding Hood," replied the wolf, counterfeiting her voice. I've tried to pretend that it was the wolf talking with a modified voice. "Who has brought you a custard and a little pot of butter sent to you by Mamma?" The good grandmother, who was in bed because she was somewhat ill, cried out, "Pull the bobbin and the latch will go up." The wolf pulled the bobbin. Door latches, I'll talk about them after, or find you a picture or something. You guys can look for them, actually. Door latch. Most people these days don't know what it's talking about when it says pull the bobbin and the latch will lift. The wolf pulled the bobbin and the door opened, then presently he fell upon the good woman and ate her up in a moment. For it was above 3 days that he had not touched a bit. He was rather hungry. He then shut the door and went into the grandmother's bed, expecting Little Red Riding Hood, who came some time afterward, and knocked at the door. Tap, tap. "Who's there?" Little Red Riding Hood, hearing the big voice of the wolf, was at first afraid. Oh, I tried too hard. Who's there? Little Red Riding Hood, hearing the big voice of the wolf, was at first afraid, but believing her grandmother had got a cold and was hoarse, answered, "'Tis your grandchild, Little Red Riding Hood, who has brought you a custard and a little pot of butter. Mamma sends you." The wolf cried out to her, softening his voice as much as he could, "Pull the bobbin and the latch will go up." Little Red Riding Hood pulled the bobbin and the door opened. The wolf, seeing her come in, said to her, hiding himself under the bedclothes, "Put the custard and a little pot of butter upon the stool and come and lie down with me. Come and hop on the bed with me." You know, it's a common grandparenty type of thing. Just sort of, I can't move, come and spend some time with me. Little Red Riding Hood undressed herself and went into bed, where, being greatly amazed to see how her grandmother looked in her night clothes, said to her, "Grandmamma, what great arms you have got." "This is the better to hug thee, my dear." "Grandmamma, what great legs you've got." Sorry, I lost the lines because it's got a lot of repeated styling. "What great legs you have got." "That is to run the better, my child." Alarm bells should be going off. Grandmamas don't usually run, especially if they get sick enough to be stuck in bed. They're not the running type. "Grandmamma, what great ears you've got." "That is to hear the better, my child." "Grandmamma, what great eyes you've got." "It is to see the better, my child." "Grandmamma, what great teeth you've got." "That is to eat thee up." And saying these words, this wicked wolf fell upon Little Red Riding Hood and ate her all up. The end. I told you it wasn't the standard telling. Apparently that's the way it ends in the one that was probably, I think, translated from French, but I'm not sure. A very early version. No woodcutter coming along and saving her or anything else like that. So the moral of the story is, don't talk to talking animals. That's the shut up and go to bed kids version. Yes. Or the wolf's... I think I can hear a tap tap at the door. Yes. Very good. The Sleeping Beauty in the Wood. No, before we start the chapter, yes, I'm going to talk some more. So in the old days, we didn't have the modern hardware with a knob that you turned, and it used a mechanism of levers and springs and stuff that pulled the tongue of the door out of the hole that it went into, that stopped the door opening, pulled it out of the hole so that you could move the door. We didn't have that because that's a very mechanical system. That makes a lot of sense. Goreki just added a quote. Yes, I'm going to talk some more. Very good. Excellent. So what they did was they would actually create ones where they were made out of timber and string, and they worked surprisingly well. I have there's a friend that we used to have over in England. I say used to just because he's probably gone now. And he had built his house. Oh, shoo, that looks fabulous. Thank you so much. Well done, by the way. Well done. I'm going to save that. Not now. I'm trying to get a story out. My brain is just going sideways. Right, so he had built his house. He had normal doors that you buy the actual timber panels that are the doors, and then you make the frame that the door goes into, and you fasten the hinges on one side, and you put the little hole that the tongue of the door, when you turn the knob, goes into to hold the door shut. And all that sort of stuff. He didn't do that. He had a system where he used these really old ones where you have a little wee, it's like a hook that's on the wall. So the wall's like this, and then it has so you've got the flat of the wall, and then there's a hook that comes out of it, a little wooden hook that comes up, and it has enough depth to it that it can have a little bit of a slope on one edge of it. Okay, so that's on the wall. And then on the back of the door, you have, on the flat of the door, you have a pin that goes into the door and a piece of timber that goes along, that pin goes through, and that can actually move up and down easily. It's got a little bit that holds it in place so it doesn't get ripped off the door. And when you shut the door, this tongue of timber hits the other hook part, and it just rides up and then drops down into that slot. And then when you lean on the door from the other side, it doesn't open because that's in place. Now, you can have doors where you have a lever like he has. I don't know if some of you have seen them, where you have a door handle which has a little wee flat button. Not a flat button this way, but flat this way, that you press down on. And what that does is that lifts at the other end. So he had a system like that, but even earlier than that, they would have a piece of string tied around that bar. It's a tiny little bar tied around that bar that went up the door a little bit, through a hole in the door, and then down on the outside. And in this case, it had a bobbin tied onto the end. So a bobbin is a little reel that you use that your thread goes around. So it had a bobbin on the end, so that would stop the string being pulled back through the door. And so you just pull on that, and by you pulling down, it pulls the string up on the inside of the door, and it lifts that little bar that's sitting in the hook. And so you can open the door. So it was really fun actually being in someone's house where they still used it. And in their house, if you wanted to lock the door, you had a little wedge that you just pushed in that would stop the button lever system that they used from actually working if you were inside the room. I don't know what you did if someone locked themselves in. I think there was a hole that you could poke through from the other side, but you had to go and get a tool that was skinny enough to do it. Anyway, so I had to save it as a PNG because GIF kept adding a line. Oh, okay, well done. Yeah, no problem. That's excellent. Thank you so much, Shu. I do appreciate that. Most of the stuff that I do these days, I actually save as a PNG just because then I can deal with it in other ways with other programs and things like that. Some things don't like GIFs. I don't know why, they just don't. So that's worth knowing too, that doing it as a GIF will actually do that. Anyway, so that's the door latch situation, and you can go home and make your own door latches if you want. But there's probably places online that you can look up how they work, but you can get the metal version of those still in England. They are used in different places. Right, so the Sleeping Beauty in the Wood is our next story. Okie dokie. I think Shu is going to go off and make herself some door latches out of wood. Stream delay. Right, let's carry on. The Sleeping Beauty in the Wood. There were formerly a king and formerly, not formally, not dressed up fancy, like it's an official engagement. English, strange. There were formerly a king and queen who were so sorry that they had no children, so sorry that it cannot be expressed. They went to all the waters in the world, vows, pilgrimages, all ways were tried, and all to no purpose. The thing is, when you desperately want a child, there's nothing that can stop you wanting one. But in reality, if you can let go of the need to have a child, then your heart will be at peace a lot more. And it won't drive you the same way. You won't feel left out. If you can find some way of being able to let go, if your existence is not tied up in the fact of having a child, it doesn't complete you. You won't necessarily, when they are born, go, oh, suddenly I loved them with my whole being. I have never felt like that before. Most of that's a load of hokum. Really. Yes, they're lovely, But also, they're a pain, they're stinky, they can't do anything for themselves, and they're very inconvenient. I'm not saying this to say don't have kids. I'm just saying it's not all sunshine and roses. I mean, if you're a king or a queen, you can get somebody else to do all the stinky stuff and deal with the noise and all that sort of thing. It's not the same as actually just being a parent. There's wonderfuls, and it's not easy. That's just how life is. And if you can't have kids, don't get so obsessed with the fact that you can't that you wreck your own life and the lives of those around you. Because you wouldn't be a better person by having kids if you currently are not able to. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work like that. That's not how life works. There are people who are horrible people who have kids. I'll wreck what I like. Yeah, go and wreck your own life. There are parents who are absolutely hideous people, and they have been hideous to their children. And there are wonderful people who have no children who are fabulous people, not because they don't have children or because they have children, just because that's the person. Okay, right, rant off. I hope. They went to all the waters in the world, like the healing waters and stuff like that. Vows, pilgrimages, all ways were tried and all to no purpose. At last, however, the queen had a daughter. They'd probably given up, and that's when it worked. That can happen. There was a very fine christening, and the princess had for her godmothers all the fairies they could find in the whole kingdom. They found 7. Says that in brackets, that every one of them might give her a gift. Oh, let's invite the fairies so that they give her gifts. Already dubious parenting going on, as was the custom of fairies in those days. By this means, the princess had all the perfections imaginable. After the ceremonies of the christening were over, all the company returned to the king's palace, where was prepared a great feast for the fairies. There was placed before every one of them a magnificent cover with a case of massive gold. A magnificent cover with a case of massive gold, wherein were a spoon, knife, and fork, all of pure gold, set with diamonds and rubies. But as they were all sitting down at table, they saw come into the hall a very old fairy. Oh dear. Whom they had not invited, because it was above 50 years since she had been out of a certain tower, and she was believed to be either dead or enchanted. So this is a heads up. If you are doing something with invitations and you know somebody who doesn't get out, don't decide for them that they can't come. If you want the person to be involved, even if you know that they're likely to not be involved, send them the invitation anyway. You have no idea how much that invitation means to them. It may also be the means by which they can get themselves out of their house to go to something because they value you. Never assume that just because they don't get out that they wouldn't appreciate the invitation. These guys learnt this one the hard way. Here we go. A very old fairy whom they had not invited because it was above 50 years since she had been out of a certain tower, and she was believed to be either dead or enchanted. Fairies, 50 years, nothing. The king ordered her a cover, but could not furnish her with a case of gold as the others, because they had only 7 made for the 7 fairies. The old fairy fancied she was slighted, and muttered some threats between her teeth. One of the young fairies who sat by her overheard how she grumbled, and judging that she might give the little princess some unlucky gift, went as soon as they rose from table and hid herself behind the hangings, that she might speak last and repair as much as she could the evil which the old fairy might intend. In the meanwhile, all the fairies began to give their gifts to the princess. The youngest gave her for a gift that she should be the most beautiful person in the world. Don't know if that's really a good gift, knowing some beautiful people and what they were actually like. The next, that she should have the wit of an angel. don't usually joke with the angels. I don't know how witty they are. Do you? Tell me about the most recent joke session you had with your friend Angel and whether they were particularly witty. The wit of an angel. I don't think it's that sort of wit they're talking about, but it's an odd one. The wit of an angel. I don't know what they intend that to mean. It's not humour, but yeah. The third, that she should have a wonderful grace in everything she did. The fourth, that she should dance perfectly well. That one was like, they've taken all the good ones. I suppose I could give her dancing. That'll keep her entertained. That she should dance perfectly well. Perfectly well. Descriptions. Dancing perfectly well. There you go. You've got this gift. You can dance perfectly well. The fifth, that she should sing like a nightingale. And the sixth, that she should play all kinds of music to the utmost perfection. Personality things, I think, would have been more useful. The old fairy's turn coming next, with a head shaking more with spite than age. 8-Ball, Goriki says, 8-Ball, can you dance perfectly well? The 8-Ball says, these aren't the answers you're looking for. Kapow. It's like a mic drop. The old fairy's turn coming next, with a head shaking more with spite than age, she said that the princess should have her hand pierced with a spindle and die of the wound. This terrible gift made the whole company tremble, and everybody fell a-crying. At this very instant, the young fairy came out from behind the hangings and spake these words aloud. Assure yourselves, O king and queen, that your daughter shall not die of this disaster. It is true I have no power to undo entirely what my elder has done. The princess shall indeed pierce her hand with a spindle, but instead of dying she shall only fall into a profound sleep, which shall last 100 years, at the expiration of which a king's son shall come and awake her. This all sounds familiar. The king, to avoid the misfortune foretold by the old fairy, caused immediately proclamation to be made, whereby everybody was forbidden on pain of death to spin with a distaff and spindle, or to have so much as any spindle in their houses. So a distaff and spindle is the one where you have the stick that comes down with a weight on it, and you twist it, and you have your threads holding that up, and as the weight spins around, it twists those threads together. And then you have a stick under your arm, it's a pointed stick, and you have the bundle of fibre that you are turning into thread poked onto that. I think the distaff is the one that you have under your arm that's holding that stuff up. And in the old pictures of the ones where it's a spinning wheel, there's a stick on the end that holds all the materials that you're working from, whereas modern spinners don't do it that way, usually. Maybe they're scared off by Snow White. Oh my goodness. And we haven't had any other name for her either in the story. So yeah, no spindles. Good luck with that. Just import all your fabrics from your thread from overseas, from out of the country. That's the one. About 15 or 16 years after, the king and queen had gone to one of their houses of pleasure. Oh, thank you. I don't wish to know that. The young princess happened one day to divert herself in running up and down the palace, when going up from one apartment to another, that's the sets of rooms, she came into a little room on the top of the tower, where a good old woman alone was spinning with her spindle. This good woman had never heard of the king's proclamation against spindles. "What are you doing here, goody?" asked the princess. "I am spinning, my pretty child," said the old woman, who did not know who she was. "Ha!" said the princess. "This is very pretty. How do you do it? Give it to me that I may see if I can do so." She's a bit rude, I suppose, princess, entitled. She had no sooner taken it into her hand than, whether being very hasty at it, somewhat unhandy, or that the degree of the fairy had so ordained it, it ran into her hand and she fell down in a swoon. The good old woman, not knowing very well what to do in this affair, cried out for help. People came in from every quarter in great numbers. They threw water upon the princess's face, unlaced her because she's wearing corsets, and so it was not so unusual for women to faint because they weren't breathing well enough. So they unlaced her, struck her on the palms of her hands. Apparently that's another revival technique. Rubbed her temples with Hungary water. What is Hungary water? It's capitalised like the name of the country. I don't know. Is that like eau de cologne? Maybe. But nothing would bring her to herself. And now the king, who came up at the noise, so he's come back from his holiday, because he was off at his pleasure house with his wife. And he's suddenly come back. So how long's this been going on? Bethought himself of the prediction of the fairies, and judging very well that this must necessarily come to pass, since the fairies had said it, he resigned himself to it, caused the princess to be carried into the finest apartment in the palace, and to be laid upon a bed all embroidered with gold and silver. Oh, how itchy if you're awake. Because she's being put upon it, not under those covers. One would have taken her for a little angel. She was so very beautiful, because remember, that was wished for her. For her swooning away had not diminished one bit of her complexion. Her cheeks were carnation. That's very red. That's very red. Carnation. That's weird. Her cheeks were carnation and her lips were coral. Coral is orange. I'm not liking this picture. And she was very beautiful. I don't like their fashions. No, you can keep this one for yourself. No, I don't like these fashions. Indeed, her eyes were shut, but she was heard to breathe softly, which satisfied those about her that she was not dead. I'm surprised they didn't tell us what colour her eyes were. Colour of emeralds. The king, or deep blue lakes, mountain lakes. Except that's not deep blue, it's usually a light blue from the glacial water. Sorry. The king commanded that they should not disturb her, but let her sleep quietly till her hour of awakening was come. The good fairy, who had saved her life by condemning her to sleep 100 years, was in the kingdom of Matakan, the first place name we have. 12,000 leagues off when this accident befell the princess, but she was instantly informed of it by a little dwarf who had boots of 7 leagues. She was 12,000 leagues off, and he had boots of 7 leagues, which means every step he takes is 7 leagues, which is quite a distance. So somebody can work out for us how many steps he would have taken if it's 12,000 leagues away and he had 7-league boots. There you go, there's your maths homework for today. That is boots with which he could tread over 7 leagues of ground in one stride. The fairy came away immediately, and she arrived about an hour after. That's quick. Well, in a fiery chariot, drawn by dragons. Hurrah! That's about the only part of it I'm enjoying so far. The king handed her out of the chariot, and she approved everything he had done. But as she had very great foresight, she thought when the princess should awake, she might not know what to do with herself, being all alone in this old palace. And this was what she did. She touched with her wand everything in the palace, except the king and queen. Governesses and maids of honour, ladies of the bedchamber, gentlemen, officers, stewards, cooks, undercooks, scullions, guards with their beefeaters, pages, footmen, whatever a beefeater is, I thought it was a queen's guard, pages, footmen. She likewise touched all the horses which were in the stables, pads as well as others. What is a... She's talking about he's talking about horses, and now he says pads. Must be a type of horse. Confusing. The great dogs in the outward court, and pretty little Mopsy too, the princess's little spaniel, which lay by her on the bed. Immediately upon her touching them all, touching them, they all fell asleep, that they might not wake before their mistress, and that they might be ready to wait upon her when she wanted them. The very spits at the fire, as full as they could hold of partridges and pheasants, did fall asleep too. Also, as all this was done in a moment, fairies are not long in doing their business. Words, modern usages compared with old ones, make things very funny. And now the king and queen, having kissed their dear child without waking her, went out of the palace and put forth a proclamation that nobody should dare to come near it. This, however, was not necessary, for in a quarter of an hour's time there grew up all around the park such a vast number of trees, great and small, bushes and brambles, twining one within another, that neither man nor beast could pass through, so that nothing, so we haven't got rose bushes then, so that nothing could be seen but the very top of the towers of the palace, and that too not unless it was a good way off. Nobody doubted, but the fairy gave herein a very extraordinary sample of her art, that the princess, while she continued sleeping, might have nothing to fear from any curious people. That is smart. That's very good. And Shu has redeemed area. What's all this about? The rotunda of choices. I do like that one. Shu has redeemed the rotunda of choices. So what are we going to get? Butterflies. Oh, I happen to know somebody who likes that one. I wonder if they realise that I'm streaming today. There you go. Butterflies. We have butterflies on. And we shall turn on an egg timer. Trying to figure out if it's raining or if it's something else. And Goriki has redeemed the selector of irresolution. And what's that one going to give us? Crown pink. It's here somewhere. I saw it before. It's slipped down the side, hasn't it? There it is. It's slightly heavier than the others. So crown pink is ready to go. I've got it there. And I shall make the egg timer work. I don't know why that does that. Does anyone know why in Windows sometimes you can't get your toolbar to pop up? I don't like leaving it up all the time. I like having that extra little bit of room on my screen. Why, when you take your mouse to the bottom of the screen and it should pop up, it doesn't? It's really strange. I don't know why it does that. And I don't know how to phrase the question to find out. It's just one of those things. Anyway, we'll carry on. The fairy gave herein a very extraordinary sample of her art, that the princess, while she continued sleeping, might have nothing to fear from any curious people, which is why all this stuff has grown up, so that people won't be able to get in and do graffiti and naughty things like people do when they think somewhere's abandoned. I don't know if that's a vehicle or if it's raining. Might be both. When 100 years were got, so what happened to the parents? Did they get put to sleep too, or did they just live in the castle on their own because they were still in the castle? Did they leave the castle? Did she put them to sleep after she put everyone else to sleep? When 100 years had gone and passed, the son of the king, then reigning, and who was of another family from that of the sleeping princess, being gone a-hunting on that side of the country, asked what those towers were which he saw in the middle of a great thick wood. Everyone answered according as they had heard. Some said that it was a ruinous old castle haunted by spirits. Others that all the sorcerers and witches of the country kept there their Sabbath or night's meeting. The common opinion was that an ogre lived there and that he carried thither all the little children he could catch, that he might eat them up at his leisure without anybody being able to follow him, as having himself only the power to pass through the wood. The prince was at a stand, not knowing what to believe, when a very good countryman spake to him thusly. It sounds like someone's water blasting, I think, outside. And so, yeah, that makes sense. I'm hearing it against the roof, I think. May it please your Royal Highness, it is now about 50 years since I heard from my father, who heard my grandfather say, that there was then in this castle a princess, the most beautiful was ever seen, that she must sleep there 100 years. I'm surprised he doesn't say 100 years. And should be waked by a king's son for whom she was reserved. The young prince was all on fire at these words. The words in this story are very dangerous. Believing without weighing the matter that he could put an end to this rare adventure, and pushed on by love and honour, resolved that moment to look into it. Love? He hasn't even seen her! It's not love at first sight, it's love at first mention, and she might have turned into an ogre by now. Anyway, I prefer the Shrek version. Scarce had he advanced toward the wood when all the great trees, the bushes and brambles gave way of themselves to let him pass through. There you go. That's what fire in your pants does to you. yeah, he's in love with her. Yeah, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Yeah, love, definitely. True love. The great trees, the bushes and brambles gave way of themselves to let him pass through. He walked up to the castle, which he saw at the end of a large avenue, which he went into. And what a little surprise! Bad writing, and I think it's actually on the part of the people who've done the OCR. And what a little surprise him was that he saw none of his people could follow him. And what surprised him a little was that none of his people could follow him, because the trees closed again as soon as he had passed through them. However, he did not cease from continuing his way. A young and amorous prince is always valiant. Yes, you're right there, Shu. Definitely the motivator. He came into a spacious outward court where everything he saw might have frozen the most fearless person with horror. There reigned all over a most frightful silence. The image of death everywhere showed itself, and there was nothing to be seen but stretched out bodies of men and animals, all seeming to be dead, but no stench. That was my part, sorry. He, however, very well knew by the ruby faces and pimpled noses of the beefeaters. Here, be a Queen's Guard, one of the elite that wears a special uniform. I hope you've got a ruby face and a pimpled nose, otherwise you can't get the job. I'm sorry, that's a shame bottle. Definitely, that's a shame bottle. Disappointed donkey is very disappointed in them. Andrew Lang, shame on you. Definitely needed that one. Well done. Perfect timing. There. Now we have Pink Crown. And we will start the timer again and carry on. He, however, very well knew by the ruby faces and pimpled noses of the beefeaters that they were only asleep, and their goblets, wherein still remained some drops of wine, showed plainly that they fell asleep in their cups, which usually actually means that someone's a bit drunk because they've been drinking from their cup too much, when someone is described as being in their cups. I spiked my spiced apple cider. Excellent. That's good to hear. That would be yummy. He then crossed a court paved with marble, went up the stairs and came into the guard chamber where guards were standing in their ranks, with their muskets upon their shoulders and snoring as loud as they could. So it's not that long ago if they've got firearms. After that he went through several rooms full of gentlemen and ladies, all asleep, some standing, others sitting. At last he came into a chamber, all gilded with gold. Yeah, that's usually what you gild with. That's why it's called gilded. Sorry. Not sorry. Where he saw upon a bed, the curtains of which were all open, unusually so when people are sleeping in a bed back then. The finest sight was ever beheld, a princess who appeared to be about 15 or 16 years of age, and whose bright and in a manner resplendent beauty had somewhat in it divine. He approached with trembling and admiration and fell down before her upon his knees. Such was his desperation. Oh dear. The spiked girls. Tell me what you want, what you really, really, real. Let's have a kebab. I think that'll do better, thanks. And now, as the enchantment was at an end, the princess awaked and looked upon him with eyes more tender than the first view might seem to admit of. Yay, not kissing to wake her up. That, I think, is really weird in the other story traditions. The prince, no. I missed a sentence. Is it you, my prince? She said to him. You have waited a long while. So she woke up fully awake. She knows who she is, she knows where she is, and she knows that she's been asleep for 100 years. Because she's been told that this is going to happen one day, that she would be asleep for 100 years. You must have waited a long while, she said. The prince, charmed with these words, and much more with the manner in which they were spoken, such a mellifluous voice, knew not how to show his joy and gratitude. He assured her that he loved her better than he did himself. Thank goodness! Yeah. Their discourse was not well connected. He assured her that he loved her better than he did himself. Their discourse was not well connected. They did weep more than talk. Oh, hi, Matsu. Great to have you here. Sorry, I'm not saying no. I'm sort of like hands up. I was about to wave them and say, welcome. Great. Come on in. Come on in. We're reading the very end of a rather odd version of, oh, Matsu, you must have, sorry, not, oh, no. Oh, you've probably either got too many capital letters in what you wrote or it's too long. Those two things will actually mean that comments sometimes don't get through. So thank you for removing the timeout on Matsu. And thank you for letting us know, Kintran. It's great, really appreciate it. It's so great to have you guys here. We're reading the very end of a version of Snow White, which is slightly odd. It is Snow White, isn't it? That this story is? Yes, it's Snow White. It's just a little odd. She didn't get kissed to wake up, so that's I like that part of it. Yeah, caps can't be 50% or greater. It's one from the Blue Fairy book by Andrew Lang. It's his translation or his interpretation even of one of the old traditional written versions of this, and most of his ones are from other European countries, and he's translated them. So I'm not sure which one that is. Some of the stories have who the original writer was that he was translating, and some of them don't. The last one that we had didn't. So we'll just see. It's and also some of the inferences are a little odd with modern word usage too. But we know that that's going to happen. It's just some of them are really a little bit snigger. It's called The Sleeping Beauty, if that's any help, this story within the book. Oh, thank you for the shout out. That's really good. I appreciate that, Goriki, for Matsu. That's really appreciated. Thanks, folks. It's lovely to have you guys here. I hope you've been having lots of fun. Right, now, Oh my goodness. And Shu has now chosen, this is because this is about to come to an end. The egg timer is nearly finished. Shu has chosen to play the Rotunda of Fluctuation. And what do we have this time? The Rotunda of Fluctuation is giving us Cat Floral. But we've already had Cat Floral today. We have a solution. Okay, so there you go. There's the egg timer. I'll turn the egg timer off because it's probably a little bit loud. I tried to make it not too loud, but I don't know. I haven't got headphones on. If I'm just chatting, just reading, I don't tend to wear headphones. So, Shu, you have a choice. Which would you like me to wear? Since it's Cat Floral, that's the winner. You get to choose. Oh, good. It's not too loud. That's good. It's not loud. As long as you can hear it. And I can say, oh, surprise, surprise. Who would have guessed? Not me. I wouldn't have guessed that Shu was going to choose top knots. All of you can ask her about what her favourite colour is. Right, and we're going to start the egg timer and we'll carry on. Sorry, The Sleeping Beauty, not Snow White. That's what we're reading, The Sleeping Beauty. Oh, man, I am not doing well with memory today, or certain words either. but it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for picking up on that, Kintran. Right, let's carry on here. The forgettery's operating too well, overtime. We'll carry on. Where do we get to? They did weep more than talk, little eloquence, a great deal of love. Okay, I suppose she's been waiting 100 years. Is that what lends itself to that? He was more at a loss than she, and we need not wonder at it. She had had time to think on what to say to him, for it is very probable, though history mentions nothing of it, that the good fairy, during so long a sleep, had given her very agreeable dreams. In short, they talked 4 hours together, and yet they said not half what they had to say. In the meanwhile, all the palace awakened, everyone thought upon their particular business, and as all of them were not in love, they were ready to die for hunger, because they've been 100 years without eating. They would have missed it. I did a diet one time. I don't really do this sort of thing normally. I did an eating method one time that involved lots of smoothies. I tell you what, at the end of that week, I have never been happier to have something in my mouth that I needed to chew on. I can't remember if it was crackers or cheese or anything that was really lavish. I think it was something very simple, but it was like, wow. He tells her that her outfit looks like his grandmother's. Yeah, exactly. So the rest of the household are awake now, and they all want some food. The chief lady of honour, being as sharp-set as other folks, grew very impatient and told the princess aloud that supper was served up. The prince helped the princess to rise. So she's been lying down for 4 hours while they're talking, and he's been on his knees. Oh dear, he's going to fall over, isn't he? The prince helped the princess to rise. She was entirely dressed and very magnificently, but His Royal Highness took care not to tell her that she was dressed like his great-grandmother, as you said, Kintran. Very good, like his great-grandmother, and had a point band peeping over a high collar. She looked not a bit less charming and beautiful for all that. They went into the great hall of looking-glasses, where they supped and were served by the princess's officers. The violins and hautboys, H-A-U-T, hautboys, playing old tunes, but very excellent, though it was now above 100 years since they had played, and after supper, without losing any time, the Lord Almoner married them in the chapel of the castle. That's pretty quick. They haven't really got to know each other. And the chief lady of honour drew the curtains. They had but very little sleep. The princess had no occasion. I'm all caught up on sleep now, thanks, mate. And the prince left her next morning to return to the city, where his father must needs have been in pain for him. The prince told him that he had lost his way in the forest as he was hunting, and that he had lain in the cottage of a charcoal burner who gave him cheese and brown bread. Wife, for art thou lying so heavily, sir? Good sir, is this really? Houtboys is an archaic term for houtboys, which is an early version of the oboe. Oh, the term is French for high wood. Boys and boss, probably. High wood, and refers to the high-pitched double-reed woodwind instrument. Historically, hautboys were used for fanfares or slightly important events in music and theatre. Oh, interesting. His mother? We'll find out. So you're obviously very familiar with this story. Thank you, Kintrae. That's good. The king, his father, who was a good man, believed him, but his mother could not be persuaded it was true, and seeing that he went almost every day a-hunting, and that he always had some excuse ready for so doing, though he had lain out 3 or 4 nights together, she began to suspect that he was married. For he lived with the princess above 2 whole years, and had by her 2 children. Most of the others, you get to the end and they lived happily ever after. In this, I have never ever read this version which has they lived together for 2 whole years, and she had 2 children, the eldest of which, who was a daughter, was named Morning, and the youngest, who was a son, they called Day, because he was a great deal handsomer and more beautiful than his sister. We are drinking to the shame bottle. That is a weird family dynamic there. Mind you, if you meet the girl and you marry her the same day and all you've done is talk to her for 4 hours, I suppose, yeah, you are going to have a really weird relationship. Let's carry on. The queen spoke several times to her son to inform herself after what manner he did pass his time, and that in this he ought in duty to satisfy her, to do the jobs he's meant to be doing for his mum. Must be a Skywalker. She's prettier than my sister. Very much so. Yeah, so by the way, anyone who hasn't been here before, if you came here hoping for a formal, gentle, audiobook style read with lots of calmness, I'm sorry, this is the wrong place for that. We have lots of fun. It's very wild at times and strange and so many other things, but we have lots of fun. It's lots of fun. We like doing this and we're sticking with it. So here we go. Where do we get to? The queen, the queen spoke several times to her son to inform herself after what manner he did pass his time, and that in this he ought to in duty to satisfy her, because in her mind he's not specifically married, so therefore she is the principal woman in his life and he needs to be obeying what she wants. But he never dared to trust her with a secret. He feared her, though he loved her, for she was of the race of ogres. That I haven't heard before either. And the king would never have married her had it not been for her vast riches. Also not a good motivation for getting married to somebody. It was even whispered about the court that she had ogreish inclinations. Oh, and we all know what that means. I haven't a clue. Can you let me know? And by that, no, we're going to get it in the story. And that whenever she saw little children passing by, she had all the difficulty in the world to avoid falling upon them. And so the prince would never tell her one word. Oh my goodness, falling upon them. I'm guessing to eat. Why is it that ogres want to eat children? I don't know. But when the king was dead, which happened about 2 years afterwards, and he saw himself lord and master, he openly declared his marriage, and he went in great ceremony to conduct his queen to the palace. They made a magnificent entry into the capital city, she riding between her 2 children. Shreklaw, ogres eat their kids. Ah, okay, thank you. That makes a little more sense now. Children are good for vitamin C and potassium, for you are crunchy and taste good with tomato sauce. Soon after She made a magnificent entry into the capital city, she riding between her 2 children. Soon after, the king went to make war with the emperor Contalabute, or Contalabut, his neighbour. He left the government. We've had 2 people named in the whole book, the whole story. Not the ones you expect. He left the government of the kingdom to the queen, his mother. That's not a good move. And earnestly recommended to her care his wife and children. He was obliged to continue his expedition all the summer, and as soon as he had departed, the queen mother sent her daughter-in-law to a country house among the woods, that she might with more great ease gratify her horrible longing for the flesh of children. Turns into a grim tale in 3. Yeah, no, it's already happened, sorry. Some few days afterwards she went thither herself and said to her clerk of the kitchen, I have a mind to eat little morning for my dinner tomorrow. Ah, madam, cried the clerk of the kitchen, I will have it so, replied the queen, and this she spoke in the tone of an ogress who had a strong desire to eat fresh meat, and I have no idea what that sounds like, so she's just haughty instead. And will eat her with a sauce robert. Yes, a sauce robert is a particular style of sauce. That's genuine. The poor man, knowing very well that he must not play tricks with ogresses, took his great knife and went up into little Morning's chamber. She was then 4 years old, and came up to him, jumping and laughing, to take him about the neck and ask him for some sugar candy, upon which he began to weep. The great knife fell out of his hand, and he went into the backyard and killed a little lamb and dressed it with such good sauce that his mistress assured him that she had never eaten anything so good in all her life. Oh my goodness, Void, you're here too. This is wonderful. Thank you everybody for writing in. This is lots of fun. And we are reading what to me is one of the weirdest versions of Sleeping Beauty. That's the one. I have not read this version before. This is a story that happens after they get together. By the way, anyone who has just come in a raid or has just previously come in a raid, if you want your viewership to count when you get raid into someone's channel, once you arrive, yes, say hi and make sure they know you're a real person. Click on the streamer's profile picture and then click on it again. The first one will take you to the home page, and then the second one will take you back into the stream. And what that does is it gets rid of the raid referrer tag in your address bar. Now, if you're using Twitch, it still happens. It's just you don't see it. Okay, if you're using the Twitch app. Because Twitch, if you are there sitting in a channel with the raid referrer tag in the address, doesn't actually count you when they are giving their assessment of how many viewers and how much engagement there was and all that sort of stuff for people who like planning by numbers, when they send their review of how things went to the streamer. So yeah, it's a good idea to do that because it means that you count as an individual viewer. And also never watch more than 2 Twitch channels at the same time, because otherwise your viewership does not count. And it doesn't just go, oh, this is the most recent one, I'm going to drop the first one off the list. Or it doesn't take the most recent one and not count that. No, it actually doesn't count any of the viewership if you've got more than 2 Twitch tabs open. Referral? So what happens if, it's lovely to have you here, by the way, Void. So what happens is if you're in a browser, this is the easiest way to explain it. If you come on a raid to somebody else's channel, that's how you got to the other channel. If you look at the address bar, it will say twitch.tv/ and then the name of the streamer. And then after that, it will have something like a question mark equals raid referrer or referrer raid or something like that. Referral, I don't know, anything that comes after the streamer's name is the tag. not like a tag that you have for the streaming itself, but it's a URL tag, and it's to do with cookies when they first come across and all that sort of thing. And browsers these days actually could remove that after you've been in a space for a certain amount of time, but they just don't. They leave it there. So what happens these days, like if you make a bookmark, if you go and visit, if you look something up and this is different, but it's because you initiated it, you probably don't have it, but the people in your crowd that come in probably have it in their name, in their address bar. So if you're the person who initiated the raid, if they've come from your channel, you probably don't have it. So the same sort of thing, but it is very frustrating. And no, we're not quite at the end of the chapter, which is why I'm not waiting till there. One of the other things that happens is if you do a Google search, nothing to do with Twitch now. If you do a Google search and then you go to a web page from the results of that, and don't go to any other pages on that site, and you bookmark it, you'd like to know that you've been to that site before, right? So if you, by some other means on somebody else's site, they've got a link through to that site, you use that link to get to the same page, it won't show you that you've already got it bookmarked, because it's still got the tag that says you came from Google search and what browser sort it was using and a whole lot of other things like that in that URL. So now you can end up with, if you do it not a whole lot of times close together, you can end up with a dozen bookmarks for the same page on the same website and not know that you've got them because they've all got this trailing bit after the actual web page URL, all to do with the search that you made and the search page you came from. And it's that sort of part at the end where technically websites can handle that it drops that off. That information is for the website so that they know when they're analyzing traffic how you got there. But the reality is once you've got there, the website doesn't need that information anymore and it should be dropped. Sorry, ranting about totally irrelevant stuff that none of you guys can do anything about, unless you are coders yourselves, in which case you can actually set it up so we know how to not have that happen. Right, so let's ignore all of that and get back to the story. So yeah, that's the thing with raiders. Oh, time for the resolver of randomness. Thank you, Shu. We'll just wait for the little circle to come back and I shall carry on reading as well. Oh, here it is. There we go. The resolver of randomness has got for us today, for me to wear this time, Cat Gem. We have not had that one today. That's lovely. Cat Gem, I've got it right here. I do like your idea that you gave me, Shu. Last time I had the cat glitter one because I've got a light one and a dark one. I've actually putting one behind the other so it actually looks like the inner ear part. So what I'm now talking about is I had this one anyway. I love this one. It stands out well against the backgrounds most of the time and also against my hair. This one, I loved the colour of it when I saw it in the shop. It's not the really pale, wispy thing. It's an in-between colour. But up against my hair colouring, it doesn't stand out as much as well as some of the other backgrounds. And so Shu actually suggested doing it so that it's like a layered ear where you have an outline and then the inner bit, and so you get the contrast between the two, and I thought that's a cool idea. Very cool idea. So I'm just going to put these away and carry on reading. So yeah, me ranting about browsers, that's usually what it's all about. Let's carry on. We want to get this story finished. Yes, well, this is going to be the only story for today by the look of it. She had never eaten anything so good in her life. He had at the same time taken up little Morning and carried her to his wife to conceal her in the lodging he had at the bottom of the courtyard. Smart man, but it should have been further away. About 8 days afterwards, the wicked queen said to the clerk of the kitchen, "I will sup on little Day." Ring the bells of shame. Oh yeah, okay, we are going to ring the bells of shame. Here we go. Disappointed donkey is very disappointed. We're all drinking water when I do this. Anytime I hydrate on stream, we all hydrate. We've had some books where I've had keywords, words that are in the text, that have come up so many times. We've all finished our water and had to go off and relieve ourselves and refill the water bottles. It's been so many on some words. Anyway, we'll carry on. Getting there. 8 days afterwards, I will sup on little Day. He answered not a word, being resolved to cheat her as he had done before. He went to find out little Day, and saw him with a little foil in his hand. That's like for fencing. No, not making a fence and a gate for your garden, but like type of sword play. A little foil in his hand, with which he was fencing with a great monkey, the child being then only 3 years of age. So, being 3 years old, you get to fence with a monkey? Like, that's a normal thing? I don't know. The child being then only 3 years of age. He took him up in his arms and carried him to his wife, that she might conceal him in her chamber along with his sister. And in the room of little Day cooked up a young kid, that's a young goat, very tender, which the ogress found to be wonderfully good. This was hitherto all mighty well, but one evening this wicked queen said to her clerk of the kitchen, I will eat the queen with the same sauce I had with her children. Sauce Robert. It was now that the poor clerk of the kitchen despaired of ever being able to deceive her. The young queen had turned of 20, not reckoning the 100 years she had been asleep, and how to find in the yard a beast so firm was what puzzled him. He took then a resolution that he might save his own life, to cut the queen's throat, and going up into her chamber with intent to do it at once, he put himself into as great a fury as he could possibly, and came into the young queen's room with his dagger in his hand. Oh, he's thinking he has to get himself really angry to be able to go and kill the young queen. He would not, however, surprise her, but told her with a great deal of respect the orders he had received from the queen mother. Do it, said she, stretching out her neck. Execute your orders. Stretching out her neck. Here, do it. And then I shall go and see my children, my poor children, whom I so much and so tenderly loved, for she thought them dead ever since they had been taken away without her knowledge. No, madam, cried the poor clerk of the kitchen, all in tears. You shall not die, and yet you shall see your children again, but then you must go home with me to my lodgings where I have concealed them, and I shall deceive the queen once more by giving her in your stead a young hind, which is a young female deer. Upon this, he obviously suddenly had a clarity of mind as to what he could use instead. Upon this, he forthwith conducted her to his chamber, where, leaving her to embrace her children and cry along with them, he went and dressed a young hind, which the queen had for her supper, and devoured it with the same appetite as if it had been the young queen. Exceedingly was she delighted with her cruelty, that she had invented a story to tell the king at his return, how the mad wolves had eaten up the queen his wife and her 2 children. One evening, as she was, according to her custom, rambling about in the courts and yards of the palace to see if she could smell any fresh meat, she heard in a ground room little Day crying, for his mamma was going to whip him. Oh dear, I guess everyone tastes the same with Robert sauce. I know, must be pretty strong sauce. His mamma was going to whip him because he had been naughty, and she heard at the same time little Morning begging pardon for her brother. The ogress presently knew the voice of the queen and her children, and being quite mad that she had been thus deceived, she commanded next morning by break of day, with a most horrible voice which made everybody tremble, that they should bring into the middle of the great court a large tub, which she caused to be filled with toads, vipers, snakes, because apparently vipers are not snakes, and all sorts of serpents, which are also not snakes, in order to have thrown into it the queen and her children, the clerk of the kitchen, his wife and maid, all of whom she had given orders should be brought thither with their hands tied behind them. They were brought out accordingly, and the executioners were just going to throw them into the tub, when the king, who was not so soon expected, entered the court on horseback. For he came post. Fast? Post-haste, I suppose, where that's from. But post is usually like a chaise, post-chaise. Carriage, and asked with the utmost astonishment what was the meaning of the horrible spectacle. No one dared to tell him, when the ogress, all enraged to see what had happened, threw herself head foremost into the tub. You just had to make her mad enough. It solves itself. Sorry, my hands are out here going like this, like this. You just had to, but I've got them out here. Sorry. Threw himself head foremost into the tub and was instantly devoured by the ugly creatures she had ordered to be thrown in for the others. The king could not but be very sorry, for she was his mother, but he soon comforted himself with his beautiful wife and pretty children, because that's what's the comfort to you. Yes, what the heck is even going on? This is almost as bad as Grimm, but not quite. Those ones are, because they're so short, the weird is somehow condensed. Because they're ugly creatures. This is why we're doing this, the shame thing. Oh my goodness, so weird. And that's the end of the story. I have not had that one at all before. So we're not going to go further today. Next time I read from this book, which will not be on my Monday or your Sunday, because today's Friday, because next time is the start of my Halloween streams. I am going to do 2 weeks of Halloween or autumn styled games. They will be cozy. They will be not creepy. They may have a little bit of cute spooky about them. There's probably going to be some which are a little bit story, some of which are probably a little bit of, like arranging and tidying things, maybe some gardening or some foraging, all that sort of, I don't know if there's even potions in one of them. Some of them are going to be ones where all it is they've got a little bit of Halloween styling in it. Because some of them, it's actually the skin of the game is changed for Halloween. I happen to know that Plastic Ducks is now into its Halloween season, and we've got some new ducks. Yay, I'm looking forward to those. I will save those till, hang on, I'm going to have to check. I'm hoping that those are still going to be available when I stream next week. Because usually when they've got some big seasonal thing, they'll give us 1 or 2 new ducks. And I think they've got some Halloween ones. I know the normal base ducks, some of those get a different skin on them for Halloween season. And yeah, so there's ducks. There's another game which is probably going to drive Goriki nuts if I remember to actually play it, because it's so old and abandoned, and why is anyone even playing this? But when I first played it, it was Halloween season, that part of the year where this particular game goes into their alternate colour mode, and really enjoyed just the way they'd done it. It's a very chunky looking game. So yeah, lots of things like that. So I'm going to be playing cozy Halloween themed games for the next 2 weeks after today. We will get back to the Blue Fairy book at some stage. Now, so far we have read 161 pages. That's Monday, Wednesday, and today that I've read. Normally a book would be between 3 and 5 days reading for me, but this one is a lot longer. It's got a lot of stories in it, and some of them are really short, some of them are quite long. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But thank you so much, Voidy, and thank you also to Matsu Quinox for Void Android and Matsu Quinox for the raids. It's been really lovely having you here. I hope you've had fun. I'm sorry I didn't actually take time to actually ask what you guys have been up to. I'm guessing reading? I hope so, because I know some of you read. Anyway, and Void's been doing art. Oh, lovely. Good. I'm just scrolling back through to see what the shout out said that you guys were doing. It's quite nice that sometimes the shout out will do that. Do I want to raid out Alka's on? Oh, wonderful. So those of you who haven't met him, Alchmutation is a musician. He's into metal and he writes his own, not screamo style metal, by the way. I love it. His language is not family friendly necessarily, so you are warned beforehand. I don't know if he's reading today or not. He's been reading through the Brothers Grimm, and that really does his head in because some of them are just so weird. He's doing groove metal. Wonderful. So those of you who want to come, we are going to go and raid Alchemy Mutations channel. I will not be hanging around because I've got to do some other work. I'm so sorry about that, but I would love to. I'm just trying to remember how I do this. Oh, you guys need the raid message first. Hang on. I'm guessing that Gorihi's over there. So we've got... Yes, if you copy that, that will work in his channel because it hasn't got too many emotes, it hasn't got too many capitalizations, and it hasn't got too many letters because I know he's got similar settings to some of mine. I love it on other people's channels when they have it, where you can do all those other things, but just because of having had trolls coming in and doing things like that, this is why we've got some of the settings I've got. And then the other one is this message for those who are subscribed to my channel. So if you copy one of those, maybe copy both if you're not sure, but definitely the free raid one will work for you. Now we are going to go and when I do the right commands, let's spell his name properly, otherwise it's not going to work. I think that's going to work. Yes, it's working. Mature audiences, so there you go, you're warned. You don't have to go, but if you want to, it would be lovely. There's just something about the way he does his music that is just like, it's buzzy, but it's so satisfying. I love it. I really love it. Also, I've got a host coming up in November, like a guest coming up. And thank you, Shu, and thank you, Fire, for contributing greatly to that, as well as to Raccoons contributed to it too. So let's raid into Alchemy Mutations channel and say hi. Thank you for being here. Look after yourselves. Happy reading. Bye.